up, folks? Sean the Average Angler coming at you with another great video, and today we've got a review video of braided line for your spinning reel. And this is what I've come to the conclusion as the best. Is it the best? Well, it kind of depends. We're going to go over that here in just a minute. If you're new to the channel and you like this kind of content, hit that subscribe button, join the Average Angler community. If you get something out of it and enjoy it, be sure and hit that like button and hype the video if you have that option, okay? I really appreciate it. All right, so today we are going to talk about spinning reel braid. And man, there is a ton of stuff out there, right? There's this one here. This used to be yellow, by the way. Now it's kind of light green, which is one of the problems with braid, right? Here's another. It's pink. Now, why go with bright colors? Well, it's really to see. A lot of techniques we'll use with spinning rods and even casting rods too. It really pays to be able to line watch. So you're watching your line on top of the water so you can pick up bites that you might not be able to feel when you're on slack line. Very, very common as the cast is sinking before you get your line taut. So a lot of baits, right? Could be flukes, could be Senkos. It could even be maybe you're fishing a tube and you're waiting for it to sink. Being able to see your line can be very critical to putting a few extra fish in the boat or on the bank over the course of the year. And who doesn't want to catch more fish? In today's market, braids are like all over the place, right? There's all kinds of different stuff. And it really kind of depends on what you're doing with that rod to decide which braid is the proper one. This is a really, really good one. Sunline Siglon PEAMZ. Very thin stuff. It is an 8-strand line, hence the X8 here. Very supple, casts extremely well. It's strong. The bright orange, again, very easy to see, but that line floats. So most braids float. Not a problem. That's great for topwater. Where it becomes an issue, and I don't know that it's an issue because look, we fished it for a long time without issues, but it's bottom baits. What tended to happen was we get this bow in the line, right? And it would kind of go like this on top of the water and then slowly down and then down. So you typically had this bow in your line from the rod tip to your bait. Now this could become an issue when you're going to set the hook if you don't reel down into them. Well, we kind of learned to reel down into the fish with the spinning rod, right? You don't need to set the hook real hard. You just reel down on them until the rod starts to load, and then you come up some with even pressure as you're reeling, drives those hooks into the fish. Okay, we're not talking frog hooks here. We're talking typically finesse hooks on our spinning rod. So pretty easy to penetrate the fish's mouth. However, now Sunline has come out with Sunline Almight, which is a sinking PE braid. Okay, I happen to have the pink here. Again, I like the bright colors. The other option is olive, which really blends in with the water. So much harder to see. Just depends on what you're doing with it, right? I love this stuff, and I tie a leader to it. Usually 8 to 12 pound fluorocarbon leader I attach. Now, one thing I want to bring to your attention, because a friend of mine bought some of this, and he had some issues with it. He said, man, it breaks really easy. I don't know what's going on. Well, this is Japanese line, okay? And if you look down here, that's very small line. And I don't know if it tells me back here what the mono is, but it's extremely small, okay? This is the 22.5. I don't recommend going under the 16 for a spinning reel. 16 is super, super thin, casts extremely well. It's strong. But as you get down to the thinner and thinner stuff, it's not made the same way as something here that says it's 12 pound. This stuff is much thinner than our typical 12 pound. So you want to move up at least a size, if not two. Here you'll see I've got 22.5, okay? And it fishes great. I have no problem with it. I would probably put that close to an equivalent of 15 to 16 pound in your typical braid. I don't have any scientific studies that I've done or anything like that. I can just tell you from fishing it. I've fished both. I have different pound tests of other brands on my lines, and I'll just tell you that that's where I find the equivalency of the Almight is. Now, the Almight sinks. It doesn't sink like a brick, but it sinks so you get a more direct connection to your bait. And I can tell you from fishing Ned rigs, shaky heads, drop shots, all these types of things, man, I can really feel it. They're very, very little reel down to the bait when you get a bite to set the hook. You start to reel down and that rod's already loading because you're there. That line just gets a more direct connection from your rod tip to your bait, and there's no in between. Okay, so it's still going to bend a little bit. It's in water, right? But it's much more direct than our other braids. Is this the end all be all for braids? Well, I think it is for any type of bait that you want sinking. If you're fishing topwater, obviously you don't want a sinking braid. That's when you would go to a standard type braid that floats. I mean, that was one of the benefits of braid, other than the no stretch, is that it floats, so it works much better with topwater type applications. Doesn't even have to be a hard top water. Say you're wanting to skip a fluke across the surface. Well, you're probably better off with floating line than you are a sinking line. So the upsides of it, extremely good knot strength. I've had no problems. Okay, I connect mine with an FG knot. The knot stays very, very small. Matter of fact, let's see if I can show you here. That knot's looking a little scruffy about now. This is a pretty heavy line I got on here. This might even be 14 or 15. But anyway, you get the point. The knot ties really, really good. I've been fishing with that. That leader's been on there for quite a while. Over a month, I can tell you for sure. So you get good knot strength. You get good rod to bait direct connection without the big bow in the line. The pink is very easy to see on top of the water, so if I'm looking for any strike detection of my bait, it's very easy to pick up. The downside, I guess, would really be the confusingness that you need to go up in the size here. Okay, the first one I used was a 13 pound, and honestly, I didn't have any problems with it at all. It casts super good in the wind, and that's something, if you're fishing in the wind a lot and you want to go down to the thinnest as possible, I would never go under 13. I prefer that 16. The 22.5 has been good. I typically run the 22.5 on a little bit bigger reel, maybe for little heavier applications where I might be tying on a 12 to 14 pound leader. So it could be used for flukes, minnow type baits, those type of things, as well as sometimes I'll throw like an 1/8 ounce or 1/4 ounce buzz bait where I will elect to throw it on a spinning rod rather than a casting rod. All right, the obvious downsides. Okay, the downsides, it's sinking. Okay, it's not a one braid fits all type of application. I'll counter that with saying the longevity on this has been very good. I've had it on one of my rods since it came out. So pretty much all year, have had no issues, haven't needed to change it. Doesn't get wind knots. I haven't had any wind knots per se. And I'm pretty picky about my braided line on my spinning rods, because if you use cheaper stuff like Beyond Braid, which I tested several years ago, you can look at my Beyond Braid review, you get wind knots. And that was one of their big advertising campaigns, was that you don't. Well, I don't hear Sunline telling you you don't get them, but I'm just telling you my experience. I have not had any wind knots per se. I really haven't had any knots in my braid, period, other than the ones I'm tying into it. It comes through the guides really well. It casts real well into the wind, with the wind, whatever you want to do. It has performed fantastically. Now, the downside of Almight, and quite honestly, the Seglon PE AMZ there that I showed you also, they're a little pricey. Okay, $29.99. And the Almight, I don't think is quite that much. This is phenomenal stuff, by the way, if you haven't used it. But it is in the 20s. The upside to that is it's money well spent. If it lasts you a year, I think it's a viable trade-off, if you will. Yeah, so that is my review of Sunline Almight until something better comes out, and it's going to be tough to beat. Okay, this is a 5-strand line, by the way, too. Sinking generally. You see the weave back here. But that said, it's still very, very supple and all that kind of stuff. So thanks for watching. I'm Sean, the Average Angler. We'll see you on the next one. Let me know what you're using, by the way.